They never said it out loud, but I knew I wasn't the daughter they wanted, not the pretty one, not the fun one, not the one you throw parties for. I was just the girl in the corner with scuffed up sneakers and too many opinions. But here's the thing about people like me, we remember everything, and some revenge stories don't need fists or fire, they just need time. Let me take you back to where it started. I was 14 the first time I realised my name didn't matter at home. It was Emma's birthday again. The third party that year. Streamers, cupcakes with edible glitter. A DJ playing bubblegum pop in our backyard like we were celebrities. She got a bracelet with real diamonds, I think. I can't say for sure. I wasn't allowed to touch it. Me, I was on picture duty. "Just make sure the lighting's good, Harper," Mom said, waving me away with a plastic fork still covered in frosting. "Emma's skin looks weird in shadows." I didn't even get a slice of cake that time. Not until after everyone left. I didn't mind. At least that's what I told myself. I had my own world. Library books, the sound of planes passing overhead at night, the dream that someday I'd fly one instead of just looking up. But dreams don't mean much in the Elwood house, not if they aren't Emma's. At school, teachers would ask what I wanted to be. Pilot, I'd say, shy but clear. At home? "A pilot?" Dad laughed once, loud enough to stop Emma mid-selfie. "What's next, astronaut?" "Harper, sweetie, just try not to crash dinner. That'd be a good start." Emma giggled like it was the funniest joke she'd heard all week. That was normal. She got piano lessons, I got chores, she got hugs in the morning, I got told not to be so moody all the time. She got a car at 16. I got a ride if Dad remembered I existed. It wasn't abuse, it wasn't loud, it was silence. And that's worse sometimes. You start to believe maybe you are just forgettable. One day, I stood by the window watching Emma unwrap her fourth gift of the night, an iPhone. I'd just come back from the library, hands still cold, cheeks red from walking home. She didn't even look up when I entered the room, neither did my parents. They didn't ask where I was, or if I was okay, or if I needed dinner. So I went to my room, sat on the floor beside my bed, and pulled out a notebook I'd been hiding since September. On the front, USAF Academy goals. Inside, pages of study plans, workout routines, everything I needed to escape. Because here's the thing they never knew. You don't need applause to take off. You just need a runway. And I was already halfway down mine. They didn't kick me out. That would have at least been something. No yelling, no slamming doors, no dramatic scene. Just nothing. The week I got my acceptance letter to the Air Force Academy, I left it on the kitchen counter. Not hidden, not taped to the fridge, just right there, under Mom's favourite coffee mug with the chip on the rim. No one said a word. No congratulations. No, "We're proud of you." Not even a, "When do you leave?" I still remember what did happen that day. Dad was outside setting up folding chairs for Emma's good luck on finals BBQ. She was failing 3 classes. Didn't matter. I passed the screen door on my way out with my second-hand duffel bag in hand. Emma looked up from her makeup mirror just long enough to say, "Don't forget to call if you flunk out." Then she went back to curling her lashes. I stood on the front porch for a full minute, waiting. For what? I don't know. Maybe for Mom to say, "Wait, do you need help getting to the airport?" Maybe for Dad to ask, "You sure about this, kiddo?" But the only sound I got was the sizzle of hot dogs burning on the grill. The cab pulled up. I loaded my own bag in the trunk, climbed into the back seat, and didn't look back. The driver, an older guy with a deep voice and soft eyes, looked at me through the rear view. "You heading off to college?" he asked. "Something like that," I said, and that was the first time I felt like someone saw me. You ever had that feeling like a total stranger notices more in 30 seconds than your family did in years? I wonder how many of you watching this ever left somewhere without anyone even asking why? If you've ever had to pack your life in silence, if you've ever watched your own parents laugh in the backyard while you disappeared, drop a comment. Seriously, I'm not the only one, right? The airport smelled like popcorn and floor wax. I waited at gate 6 with my hoodie pulled tight and hands shaking, pretending I wasn't scared out of my mind. A girl nearby was crying as her whole family hugged her goodbye. Her mum kept saying, "Write us every day, okay?" I pulled my knees up to my chest and stared out the window at the runway. That's when I promised myself something. I wouldn't cry on the plane. I wouldn't call home begging them to notice. I'd get through it, even if no one was watching, because I didn't leave to prove them wrong. I left to finally become someone, even if it meant doing it completely alone. The first week at the academy nearly broke me. I was exhausted before the sun even rose. My body ached in places I didn't know could hurt. The boots gave me blisters so raw I had to stuff tissues inside just to walk. And the first time I failed my flight sim, I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection for an hour, wondering if Dad was right, if I really was wasting my time. But I didn't call home. I didn't ask for help. I just kept going. Every morning I made my bed with sharp corners. Every night I studied until my eyes burned. The instructors didn't care where you came from. They didn't care who your family was or wasn't. You either showed up or you washed out. And I wasn't going to wash out. By month 3, I stopped keeping count of the bruises. By month 6, I passed the sim on my 4th try. By month 12, I was flying. Not co-pilot, not observing. Flying. There was this one moment, my first solo flight, where I broke through a low cloud bank and the sky just opened up like a secret. Blue stretching endlessly above me, land far below like a memory. I remember gripping the yoke, breath caught in my throat and thinking, they'll never believe this back home. Not that they'd ever ask. I sent postcards anyway. One to Mum, one to Dad. Just a quick note, Nig. Flying now, doing okay. Never heard back. On holidays, when the other cadets flew home, I stayed in the dorms. Emma posted beach pics. My parents commented hearts. They didn't ask where I was. They didn't notice I wasn't in any family photos. There was a Thanksgiving where a younger cadet asked if I had anyone to call. I laughed it off, said I preferred the quiet. Truth was, the silence still stung, but I was getting used to it. I graduated top 5% in my class, got stationed overseas at 25. Led my first mission at 27, saved an entire recon unit by rerouting them from a collapsed supply trail. No headline, no thank you, just another name in the daily brief. Still, I kept going. You see, when you're born invisible, you learn to survive in the shadows. But surviving long enough, you become dangerous in them. At 30, I was promoted to colonel. A year later, Brigadier General. Only a fraction of officers make it there, even fewer women. But no one in my family knew, because no one in my family cared to ask. And the truth is, that hurt more than any drill, any failure, any battlefield. Because you can earn stripes, stars, and silence an entire room with a single glance. But what do they mean when the people who raised you still call you the quiet one? And yet, somewhere in the ache, I wasn't angry, not yet. That would come later. I hadn't planned to go. Emma's engagement party was the kind of family event I usually found out about last. A forwarded text, a half-hearted voicemail. This time Mum called, which was rare. Just show your face, she said, like I was some embarrassing uncle they had to include. Emma says she wants everyone there. Everyone. That word stung more than it should have. So I went, not to be supportive, not to celebrate. Just to see, one last time, if they could ever look at me and actually see me. I wore jeans, a hoodie, no makeup, my hair tied back in a low bun, no medals, no fanfare, no signs of rank. Just Harper, the quiet one, coming home. The backyard hadn't changed. Same folding chairs, same plastic tablecloths, same fake laughter I remembered from high school. No one greeted me when I arrived. Dad was flipping burgers, already half burnt. Mum was slicing cake with her back to me. Emma? She was in a tight red dress, taking selfies near the rosebush, surrounded by her usual fan club. I made my way to the lemonade cooler, hoping to disappear quietly. But of course, Emma saw me. "Look who showed up," she announced loudly. "It's General Harper, back from Top Gun or whatever." Laughter. I forced a smile. She kept going. "She used to say she wanted to be a pilot or a spy or something. Now I bet she works in a basement filing tax forms." More laughter. Some guests looked at me, expecting me to laugh along. I didn't. Then it happened. A man near the cornhole set turned. Big guy, stocky, aviator sunglasses, barking instructions at a group of guys. He looked right at me and froze. The sunglasses slipped off his face, his mouth opened slightly. He stepped forward, slowly, like in a dream. Then, with sharp precision, he stood at attention and said loudly, "General, ma'am." Silence. Plastic cups paused mid-air. Emma dropped her phone. Dad stopped flipping burgers. And for the first time in my life, my entire family looked at me, really looked. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The drill sergeant, Emma's fiancé's commander, had just exposed everything they never cared to know. I walked past Emma, who was still frozen, past the stunned guests, straight through the gate. Mom chased after me a few minutes later. "Honey, wait, why didn't you ever tell us?" I turned. "You never asked." She blinked, her mouth opened, closed. And in that silence I felt something shift. For once they were speechless. For once they didn't get the last word. And that was only the beginning. I didn't go back to the party. I checked into a cheap motel 2 towns over, tossed my hoodie on a chair, and stared at the ceiling. The words still echoed in my head. General, ma'am. 2 words that shifted everything, and still I felt nothing. There was no satisfaction, no dramatic music, no movie moment, just the same silence I'd grown used to. Until the next morning when I got a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. I think you're in danger. It's about Project Mirage." Avery Hill. Avery and I had served together. Quiet, brilliant. One of the few people I'd trusted with sensitive intel before he transferred. If he was reaching out now, it wasn't casual. I replied instantly, "I'm listening." 5 minutes later, he called. His voice was tight, low. "There's been a leak," he said. "Someone accessed secure files tied to Mirage. It was traced back to Rosner's old clearance, but not from him." I sat up. "You're saying someone's trying to use Mirage?" "Not use, weaponize. There's footage, Harper, from Damas Bay." I froze. That operation was never supposed to exist on record, and I was there. My hands went cold. Avery continued. "They're building a case against someone. Could be you, could be Rosner. Whoever it is, they're pushing it to internal investigation." "How bad is the footage?" "Bad enough to ruin careers, or end them." For a few seconds, I didn't say anything. Then I stood up, grabbed my gear, and said what I hadn't said in years. "I'm going to finish what we started." Over the next week, I worked alone, quietly, carefully. I reactivated old access points, traced file pings from a Russian proxy, reviewed backdoor entries into our black sites. Only 2 people had the clearance to retrieve the Mirage footage, me and Rosner. But there was a 3rd login, unfamiliar, hidden. Someone was trying to frame me using the very footage I had buried to protect our team. And I had a strong feeling who gave them access. Rosner had always played the long game, clean hands, ruthless strategy. But if he'd authorised the wipe, he could just as easily authorise a scapegoat. And I was the perfect target, forgotten, invisible, with just enough power to make the fall look big. This wasn't just betrayal, it was tactical erasure. Again, same as my parents, same as Emma. Only this time, it wasn't just about being left out of a party. It was about being deleted from the mission I bled for. So I flipped the script. I went back into the system, pulled the clean footage, the real one. And what it showed wasn't just me. It showed Rosner, giving the kill order. No hesitation, no debate, just cold command. I watched it twice, then I made a copy, labelled it Truth 1. This time, no more silence. No more waiting to be seen. This time they'd have to watch. The briefing room was colder than usual. 4-star brass lined the table. Generals, advisors, watchdogs. Rosner sat at the head, hands folded, his face calm, too calm. I entered in full uniform. This time, no hoodie, no shadows. I wore the medals they never cared to ask about, the stars they never thought I'd earn. And when I dropped the USB marked Truth 1 onto the centre of the table, I didn't say a word. The screen behind Rosner lit up, footage rolled, Damas Bay, no shaky phone recordings, no edited clips, just raw video, night vision, screaming. Rosner's voice, sharp and clear. Initiate strike, full clearance. The room went still. He stood, slow. This doesn't prove anything, he said, but his tone cracked at the edges. I looked him in the eye. You tried to erase me. Like they did, like everyone always did, but I was there, and I remember everything. 2 hours later, Rosner resigned without a word to the press. The story never made headlines. Of course it didn't. Some truths aren't meant for news cycles, they're meant for history. 1 week later, I was called back into a private ceremony. No cameras, just silence, salutes, and the sharp echo of my boots on marble as I crossed the stage. Effective immediately, the commander read. Harper Elwood is hereby promoted to General, full honours, 4-star rank. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I stood there, steady. Because after everything, the person I needed validation from the most had already given it, me. But as I turned toward the back of the room, I caught a glimpse, 3rd row, aisle seat. My mother, hair pinned back, purse clutched tight, Emma beside her, head lowered, my father nowhere to be seen. They had come, but they hadn't been invited. Someone must have forwarded the details, out of pity maybe. Emma met my eyes for a split second. She mouthed something I couldn't hear. It might have been sorry. It might have been wow. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, because I didn't need it anymore. That night, I returned to my quarters alone. I poured myself a glass of water, removed the stars from my collar, set them gently beside my boots. For the first time in years, I slept with no weight in my chest. Because I knew finally I wasn't the girl in the corner anymore. I was the one at the head of the table, the one with a name they couldn't ignore. If you've ever been dismissed, doubted, or made to feel invisible, if you've ever sat in silence while people called someone else the golden child, drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Because sometimes the loudest victories come from the ones they tried to forget.